A Browns teammate just said what a lot of fans have been arguing about for months, and he didn't sugarcoat it. Quinshon Judkins hopped on a podcast, got asked about the quarterback situation, and instead of giving a boring, PR-safe answer, he spoke freely about Shedeur Sanders. The swagger, the confidence, the Pro Bowl nod, even the critics who always got something to say. And now the clip is blowing up. Because this isn't just random off-season chatter. This is a key offensive player publicly backing a quarterback in the middle of a crowded QB room, with a new coaching staff and Deshaun Watson still in the picture. So what does it really mean? Is this just standard teammate support? Or is the locker room quietly signaling who they believe should lead this team? Let's break down exactly what Judkins said and why this conversation might be bigger than it looks. The moment that set this off wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was calm, and that's what made it powerful. When asked about the quarterback situation, Judkins didn't dodge the question. He didn't play politics. He said he loves all the quarterbacks in the room. He talked about how young the team is and how much they've developed throughout the year. But when the conversation turned specifically toward Shedeur Sanders, that's where things got interesting. He smiled. He defended the swagger. He defended the confidence. And he made it clear that people misunderstand it. Judkins said straight up, some people call it cocky, but to play at that level you have to have that belief, that self-confidence, that edge, and he wasn't apologizing for it. That's not a neutral answer. That's a teammate choosing a side in a debate that's been raging all offseason. He even referenced Shedeur's Pro Bowl recognition, saying he was happy for him after everything he endured during the year. That word endured carries weight. It suggests there was pressure, noise, doubt, and through it all, Shedeur still produced. But here's the part people might overlook. Judkins also said something very important. You earn your respect on the grass. That line matters. It signals competition. It signals that nothing is guaranteed, and it shows that while he supports Shedeur, he understands the business. He even acknowledged Deshaun Watson's work ethic, saying he's seen him at the facility putting in the work. So this wasn't reckless loyalty. It wasn't disrespect toward anyone else in the room. It was measured support. And that's why it hit differently. Because when a young offensive weapon publicly backs a quarterback's mentality, especially in a new coaching era, it adds fuel to a narrative that's already building. But here, where this conversation gets deeper, because the real controversy isn't about production, it's about personality. And that's where the league and the media start to split. This is where things always get tense. Because when people talk about Shedeur Sanders, the conversation rarely stays on football for long. It drifts into personality, into swagger, into whether confidence crosses a line. Judkins addressed that head-on. He said some people don't like the swagger, some see it as cocky, but in his view, that confidence is exactly what allows a player to produce at a high level. Belief isn't optional at quarterback, it's survival. And he's not wrong. The NFL is full of elite quarterbacks who walk with presence, who talk, who celebrate, who carry themselves like they belong. That edge is often praised when it wins, questioned when it doesn't. So why does it feel different with Shedeur? Part of it is visibility. He didn't arrive quietly. Colorado was loud. Cameras followed him. Social media amplified everything. Add in who his father is, Deion Sanders, and suddenly every celebration, every quote, every glance gets magnified. Judkins even mentioned it. Look who his pops is. That swagger didn't appear overnight. It's part of the DNA. But here, where the split begins. Some fans love it. They see leadership, charisma, star power. Others interpret it differently. They argue the NFL requires humility, that rookies should prove first, talk later. There's been buzz online, especially among certain analysts, suggesting Shedeur's personality could rub some veterans the wrong way. That's speculation. No confirmed reports of locker room issues have surfaced, but the narrative exists. And that narrative feeds the divide. What Judkins did in that interview was subtle but important. He normalized the swagger. He framed it as necessary. He reframed confidence as competitive fuel, not arrogance. That matters coming from a teammate who shares the backfield, someone who sees the daily work, not just the highlight clips. Because at the end of the day, personality only becomes a problem if production doesn't match it. And that's where this story moves next. Because this isn't the first Browns player to publicly support Shedeur. And when patterns start forming inside a locker room, people notice. Here, what makes this bigger than one podcast clip? This isn't the first time a Browns player has publicly backed Shedeur Sanders. Over the past few months, there's been a steady pattern. Veterans speaking positively, teammates praising his work ethic, defensive leaders acknowledging his competitiveness, even subtle comments from staff about growth and leadership. None of it has been explosive, no dramatic declarations, just consistent support. And consistency builds perception. Myles Garrett has spoken about accountability and belief. Denzel Ward has emphasized development. Other voices inside the building have echoed similar themes: confidence, improvement, leadership presence. Now, to be clear, no one has officially declared Shedeur the unquestioned starter. No formal announcement, no public depth chart reveal. But when multiple players voluntarily defend a quarterback's personality and production, that signals something. Comfort, trust, alignment. Fans have even coined their own phrases about the media divide, claiming some outlets seem resistant to the idea of Shedeur leading the franchise. That's fan-driven narrative, not confirmed bias, but it shows how emotional this debate has become. What's interesting is how quiet the actual locker room noise appears to be. If there were real tension, it likely would have leaked by now. Anonymous sources, rumblings, insider whispers. Instead, what we're seeing publicly is support. Measured, professional, but clear. That doesn't automatically mean he's locked in as QB1. It does mean he's not isolated. And in a quarterback competition, that matters more than people think. Because talent wins games, but belief wins locker rooms. Still, let's not ignore reality. The Browns' quarterback room isn't empty. Deshaun Watson is still there. There are multiple names on the roster, and Judkins himself acknowledged that. Which brings us to the balancing act in his comments, and why this situation is far from settled. Here's the part that keeps this from becoming a simple story. Deshaun Watson is still in the building, and Judkins made sure to acknowledge that. He didn't ignore Watson. He didn't sidestep the question. He said he's seen him at the facility, said he works hard, said he does his job. That wasn't accidental. That was intentional balance. Because no matter how much momentum Shedeur's name carries right now, this isn't a one-man room. Watson has experience. He has starts. He has the resume. And if he's healthy, he's not just stepping aside because a rookie has buzz. Judkins also dropped a key line. You earn your respect on the grass. That's competition talk. It signals that nothing is guaranteed. Not swagger, not hype, not draft status, not past accomplishments. Earn it. That's how NFL locker rooms operate. And that's what makes this situation fascinating. On one side, you have a young quarterback with charisma, backing from teammates, and growing public momentum. On the other, you have a veteran trying to reestablish himself, reportedly putting in work behind the scenes. There's been speculation online that this could turn into a full training camp battle. Some fans believe the coaching staff may open it up. Others think the organization already knows its direction and is just waiting for the right moment. No official confirmation either way. But the tension is real. And here, what matters most, Judkins didn't crown anyone. He showed support. He emphasized competition. He validated personality. But he left the door open. That's maturity. Because backing a teammate doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means believing in the room while understanding the business. And speaking of maturity, there's another reason Judkins' words carry weight. It's not just what he said. It's who he is and what he's already experienced in his own NFL transition. It's easy to dismiss teammate praise as routine locker room talk. But here's why Quinshon Judkins' comments hit differently. He's not some wide-eyed rookie trying to fit in. He's already gone through the NFL wake-up call himself. On that same podcast, he talked about the biggest transition from college to the league. In college, he said, you expect to beat the first level automatically. In the NFL, the defensive linemen are smarter, faster, technically sharper. You can't just rely on talent anymore. You have to study fronts, recognize techniques, adjust on the fly. That's someone who understands the grind. He also shared his welcome to the league moment, getting rocked by a Ravens linebacker when he didn't even have the ball. That's not a highlight story. That's humility. That's growth. When a player who's felt that jump from college hype to NFL reality speaks about another young player's mentality, it carries credibility. Judkins knows how fast the league humbles you. So if he's defending Shedeur's confidence, he's doing it with full awareness of how unforgiving this level is. That's important, because critics often frame swagger as naive, as something that disappears once real NFL hits start landing. But Judkins has been hit. He's seen the speed. He's adjusted. And he's still saying that belief, that edge, is necessary. That tells you he doesn't see Shedeur as just hype. He sees him as someone built for the pressure. And here's another layer people overlook. Judkins has played in high-profile environments before. Ole Miss, Ohio State, national title conversations, Big Ten dominance debates, SEC comparisons. He's been in media storms. He understands narratives. So when he casually defends a quarterback's personality in the middle of a media divide, it's not accidental. It's informed. Which brings us to the bigger picture. Because if this support continues, if more teammates echo similar sentiments, the conversation around the Browns' future quarterback might shift faster than people expect. And that shift wouldn't start with the coaches. It would start inside the locker room. Here's the part people don't always say out loud. Quarterback battles aren't won in press conferences. They're won in locker rooms. Coaches make the official call, yes. But when teammates consistently show belief in one guy, when they defend his personality, highlight his growth, and publicly back his mindset, that energy matters. It spreads. Right now, the Browns are in a transitional moment. New staff, young core, a quarterback room that still has layers to it. And in moments like this, tone becomes everything. Judkins' comments weren't explosive. They weren't controversial in a reckless way, but they added to something that's quietly building: momentum. Not hype. Momentum. There's a difference. Hype comes from headlines and debate shows. Momentum comes from inside the building. Now let's be balanced. This doesn't mean Shedeur is guaranteed the starting job. It doesn't mean Deshaun Watson is out of the picture. It doesn't mean the coaching staff has made a final decision. Training camp will matter. Preseason reps will matter. Performance will matter. But perception shapes pressure. And when fans see multiple players defending a quarterback's swagger, talking about his endurance, acknowledging his growth, it reframes the narrative. Suddenly it's not, is he too flashy? It becomes, is he ready to lead? And that's a different conversation entirely. There's also the bigger branding factor. The NFL thrives on personality, on presence, on marketable stars. If Shedeur produces while carrying that confidence, the franchise benefits beyond the stat sheet. Still, the real test hasn't happened yet. It'll happen when pads come on, when mistakes happen, when adversity hits. That's when swagger either solidifies or fades. But right now, the locker room tone feels steady, supportive, aligned. And if that alignment continues, the outside noise might not matter as much as people think. Because in this league, belief inside the building is louder than debate outside it. Which leaves us with one final question. Is this just off-season buzz? Or are we watching the early stages of a quarterback shift in Cleveland? Here's the tricky part about moments like this. In March and April, everything feels louder than it probably is. A podcast clip drops, fans dissect every word, and suddenly it feels like the depth chart has already been decided. But the NFL doesn't move that fast. Still, sometimes momentum starts quietly. Sometimes it's not a headline, it's a tone shift. Right now, what we're seeing isn't a coach announcing a starter. It's not a leaked report saying one quarterback is ahead. It's something more subtle, repeated public belief from teammates. And that matters more than people admit. Because quarterbacks don't just throw passes. They command rooms. They shape culture. They influence energy. If the offense believes in a guy's confidence, if they respect his work, if they view his swagger as fuel instead of distraction, that creates chemistry before a single preseason snap. Now let's keep this grounded. There's no official QB1 declaration. No confirmation that the job belongs to Shedeur. No proof that Watson is out of the race. There's also no evidence of locker room division. Everything publicly available suggests professionalism across the board. But here, what makes this interesting? When multiple players organically defend the same quarterback's mindset, without being prompted, it suggests authenticity. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel rehearsed. It feels natural. And natural support is powerful. There's been buzz online suggesting this could turn into one of the more closely watched quarterback competitions in the league. That's speculation, but it's understandable given the personalities involved. If Shedeur wins the job, people will look back at clips like this and say, the signs were there. If he doesn't, this becomes another example of off-season optimism. Either way, something is shifting. Not officially, not formally, but emotionally. And sometimes in the NFL, emotional alignment precedes organizational decisions. So maybe this is just off-season chatter. Or maybe it's the early heartbeat of a new era in Cleveland. And we won't know which one it is until the grass, like Judkins said, decides it. Here's something people don't talk about enough. Public support isn't just uplifting. It's pressure. When teammates go on record defending your swagger, praising your growth, and backing your mindset, it raises expectations. It tells the fan base, we see something here. And once that message spreads, the standard changes. Now Shedeur isn't just the confident rookie with a famous last name. He's the quarterback teammates are openly aligning with. That's different, because belief creates responsibility. If he wins the job, every throw gets magnified. Every mistake becomes a debate. Every celebration becomes a storyline. The same swagger that teammates defend will be dissected nationally. And if he doesn't win the job, the narrative shifts again. People will ask if the locker room's belief outweighed performance, if hype outpaced readiness, if momentum got ahead of development. That's the tightrope. What makes this fascinating is how calm the actual players seem compared to the outside noise. Judkins didn't sound emotional. He didn't sound defensive. He sounded confident, measured, grounded. That tone suggests something important. Inside the building, this might not feel chaotic at all. It might just feel competitive. And that's healthy. The NFL rewards performance, not podcast clips. It rewards preparation, not perception. So while fans and media debate swagger versus humility, QB1 versus QB2, the real decision will happen where Judkins said it should, on the grass. That's where reputations change. That's where narratives collapse. That's where belief either becomes validated or tested. Right now, all we have is momentum and tone. But tone shapes culture, and culture shapes outcomes. So maybe this isn't about one viral comment. Maybe it's about a locker room slowly revealing who they trust when the lights come on. And if that trust keeps building, the decision might end up making itself. At the end of the day, this wasn't some wild, headline-chasing rant. It was a teammate speaking naturally about a quarterback he respects. Quinshon Judkins didn't crown Shedeur Sanders. He didn't dismiss Deshaun Watson. He didn't predict the future. What he did was validate something that's been building quietly: belief. Belief in confidence. Belief in growth. Belief that swagger isn't a flaw, it's fuel. Now the real test is coming. Training camp will separate momentum from reality. Reps will matter. Decisions will be made. And when that moment arrives, all the off-season talk fades. Because like Judkins said, you earn it on the grass. So is this just off-season buzz? Or are we watching the foundation of a new chapter in Cleveland being laid in real time? We're about to find out.